Support for this episode is brought to you by Avodah, an organization developing lifelong social justice leaders grounded in Jewish values. They're currently accepting applications for their Justice Fellowship in Chicago and New York City. Over 8 months of evening sessions, retreats, and mentorship, fellows deepen their justice analysis while building a diverse, pluralistic Jewish community. Ready to sustain your justice work, find your people, and make a real impact in your city? Apply for the Avodah Justice Fellowship by September 8th at avodah.net/fellowship. Head to the website to apply today. This is Judaism Unbound, episode 550, Elul 2026, number 3. God? Welcome back, everyone. I'm Lex Rofberg.
And I'm Wendie Bernstein-Lash.
And we are continuing on with you through this Challah month, this meaning-making month of Elul. It's the 12th out of 12 Jewish months in the calendar year, leading into Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the high holidays. And it's a beautiful time for introspection, for looking inward, evaluating where we've each been in the past year, where we want to be in the future. I don't just mean geographically, I mean in all sorts of ways, where we have been and where we will be. And Elul Unbound is the way that Judaism Unbound as an organization marinates in this month, treats it as an on-ramp into the high holidays, but also as its own magic. The thing about on-ramps is like they're also roads, right? Like they don't only lead you from one thing to the next. They are their own street for you to be on, and that is what Elul can be. So we've been wandering this street that is Elul for the past couple episodes. This is our third of 4 short Judaism Unbound episodes, and we also have been gathering weekly on Fridays in Zoom to light candles together, explore the meaning of this month together. It's been really wonderful. And if you'd like to come to our final 2 gatherings, there's one tonight and next week that you can register for at judaismunbound.com/ELUL. There's so much more Elul meaning making to do. Our 3-week Elul mini courses have already started, so you can still register for those. You've just missed the first one, and you'll have to catch up and be there for the final 2 editions. You can do so at judaismunbound.com/classes. One other quick plug is that Wendie is an amazing spiritual director and also connected to other amazing spiritual directors, which means that as a beautiful gift of this month, we encourage our listeners to head to judaismunbound.com/Elul and fill out a quick form where you can indicate your desire for a free spiritual direction session where you can talk about God. And so that's going to be our starting note. We realized in prepping for this year, we've had so many conversations. We're in the 30s now of Elul Unbound conversations throughout 9 different years. But while God has been a factor and meandered its way into many of those conversations, maybe the majority, we haven't just been like, okay, our topic for this week, for this podcast episode, is to schmooze about God. And we wanted to do that. And so there's always a risk there, right? Like some people are not particularly enthused to make God the center of their Jewish experience. For what it's worth, I am often one of those people. So you're not alone if you're listening and you hear there's going to be a conversation about God and you're like medium about that or maybe even opposed. But we also have lots of folks who are deeply enthused by spiritual conversations anchored on notions of God. And Wendie, you love to hang with some of those people and you are one yourself. So take us in. Like, let's talk about God a little bit. This is a month where God looms and where we can orient ourselves to whatever it is we believe and don't about divinity. And so take us in. What might Elul be for us on that spiritual front of connecting or exploring notions of God?
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, this is my sweet spot. I really do like this. And I too also am somebody that has a push-pull. Like sometimes it's about talking about God and experiencing it, and sometimes it's like not there. I was thinking last week when we were doing the podcast that you used this phrase, and I wrote it down, wondering and wandering. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do, is wonder and wander with God. You know, what is God? What does it mean to you? What is your experience? I actually don't like the word belief because that feels like really concrete. But what do you know? We have this way as human beings that we can think about how there's something beyond us, how we are connected to one another, how we are connected to all creation and creativity and inspiration, and that we're not this unique, siloed, boundaried thing. We get to explore that. And how does that change our understanding and our experience if we explore what that is? I like being in that territory of wondering, wandering, meandering, and not having to have an answer, but allowing myself and allowing others to have a chance to wonder and wander.
So I'm going to take a patented, made-up Lex wordplay moment. I love that wonder and wander. I mean, I said that phrase last week, and I say it not infrequently, but I hadn't really thought about the words much. I don't know if they are related etymologically in English at all. But the thing about Judaism, in Hebrew especially, is that we get to look at words that kind of look the same and say they're related, even if etymologically they're not. That's a long tried and true Jewish tradition. And so I'm going to look at wonder and wander and say, well, the root of each one of them is the N-D-E-R. That's a Hebrew word, neder, that is actually deeply important. It means vow, and it is associated with the high holidays, Kol Nidre, the Nidre. We've talked about that a little before, I think, but it's not my favorite declaration. What if the wondering and the wandering share that they are tied to notions of vow making? The thing about vows is that in our tradition, there are kind of delineations between vows that are between human beings and God versus vows that are between human beings. I bring that up because if wonder and wander share that vow anchoring, and if they can connect to both human beings and God, that's actually really helpful for a conversation about what God might be, about how we might relate to that God. I'll add that you said wander, and added your own meander. So meandering is also to explore this realm of vows. Again, not making a literal etymological claim, but I am making a kind of pseudo-linguistic claim that we might find this shared connection between those words. So I'm very invested in conversations about God and in what I see as my relationship to God. Although for me, the word God is not what I always use. Not because I think it's like wrong, but because I think when I tell people, if I tell people I believe in God, I think they get a misread on what I believe in. I think the word God in English to most people refers to something supernatural. You used the phrase beyond us. There are ideas of God that are transcendent, so about something that transcends, that is above and beyond sort of the material world that we experience. And there's ideas of God that are about immanence, I-M-M-A-N-E-N-C-E. I pretty much exclusively, on the spectrum from relationship to a transcendent God to relationship to immanent God, which is basically a God that is separate from us on the one hand, that we pray to, that created us, that's kind of transcendent God. A God that you could talk to as you, not me, like our prayers, Baruch atah, blessed are you, like you're talking to an externality. That's one end of the spectrum. I pretty much entirely operate on the opposite end of the spectrum, where God is the sum total of all material existence. And when I talk about my relationship to God, I'm not talking about my relationship to something that transcends all humanity and all animals and all matter. I'm talking about the sum total of all of those things collectively, which there are actually Jewish ideas. I mean, there's many different mystically important phrases about how ein od milvado, there is nothing other than God. Everything that we look at and touch and feel is part of the thing we call God. God is not outside of that. And so for me, it's actually very important to the flow of my life that I connect to something that I see as like an unequivocal oneness of all creation. I don't always call it God because, again, it doesn't help people understand what I think if I call that God. Because if they ask me, do you believe in God? They often mean, do you believe in something separate from our material reality that created that reality? And I don't. But it is fundamentally important to my life that I see all matter as connected and one. When I talk about God, I'm talking about the interconnected web of all existence. and how I believe every node in that existence, every organ of that body, every cell, maybe every one of us, every piece of matter is a cell in that body. And so it's imperative that I, as a cell in that body, don't only operate with respect to myself, but also with respect to all the other cells in the body. I operate with that idea. And Wendie, I'd love to hear, because we haven't really had this conversation, how you would characterize God in your life.
The truth is, I think I hold many differing experiences and understandings at the same time. There are times that I'm exactly where you are, non-dualistic, panentheistic. There's a lot of terms that we use in theology of God being everything, and we're, part of that, not separate, not outside of us. And then there are times, I think, especially when we're struggling. To me, that's where like liturgy or Psalms or something, like, I feel like for some reason I need to draw upon something that's bigger than me and bring it in because I'm really struggling. That orientation, that understanding of God shows up for me. And I think for others, being a spiritual director and listening to people's stories about their experiences of life and their experiences of God or the divine, you see the full gamut. And I know that my own experiences, like there's times that Rabbi Ann Brenner once said, the God that I don't believe in keeps showing up. So there are times when we think, I don't think this way, and yet I need this. What I do love is different ways that we look at actually how God is in our sacred text. Like Moses asks God, what's your name? Who are you? So I can tell the people. And God responds, Ehiyah, Asher Ehiyah. I am what I am, or I am beingness, or the Yud He Vav He Hebrew 4 letters that we see in Torah, in other places too, is the root of beingness. If you look at those words, that God is not the word Adonai. We just put that word in, that it's beingness. What does that mean? Well, that's that oneness that we're all part of. So I can know in my own experience that there's a time that I need God to be outside of me, and I need to pray, come help me. I'm really struggling with something. And so if I need that, I'll do it. And there's the time, which is more of the time that I'm like you, which is I'm part of something, and I want to feel that unitive experience that I'm not separate. Then when we start talking about it, it gets really challenging because we're using words for something that is really beyond words.
I really co-sign, even there's a way in which you were bringing up some elements of your God reality that differ from how I talked about it. I want to specify a little bit about what I mean by dwelling in the immanent and not the transcendent. I very frequently, and I have practices for this purposes, like I seek out ways to transcend my sense of individuality, my sense of selfness, my sense of like just me, as opposed to me as part of a broader whole. So I absolutely need to feel, and I think all of us need to feel, part of broader wholes that transcend our individuality. That's part of why I love sports. I go to a soccer game, RIFC, Rhode Island's soccer game, and I am not really a me so much as I am one person wearing the RIFC colors, providing noise and volume and cheers and songs to support of those players. And I'm still me, but to people across the stadium from me, they look in my direction. They don't see me. They see a sea of faces and people. And they're actually not wrong about what they see. I am as much that sea of people as I am sort of my individualness, and maybe more so. And it feels good to melt into something bigger, to be part of a force, a volume that can fill a stadium. That's one obvious example of this. But on a neighborhood level, I think it's really important that we understand we are not each isolatable, separatable individuals or nuclear families whose eyes should each be on ourselves and not really on the well-being of our whole community. I actually, for religious reasons, this is going to sound weird, but this is not to condemn anyone who has a Ring camera. I feel that the act of placing a Ring camera on my door, I mean, like, I'm thinking about mezuzahs. I'm thinking about what we put on our doors, right? And what we don't. And a mezuzah on my door is many things, but for me, it's a signal of Jewishness, but it's also me interfacing with the set of people that walk past my door. Like, it's talking to them. It's a thing that they can notice and interface with, and it's making my house part of the broader whole of people that walk past it. What a Ring camera does is it focuses on everything outside of it as a threat to it. Somebody can break in. My apartment before, not my current house, but the previous apartment I lived in, literally was broken into. But like, I feel that it's super important to transcend our notions of self. For me, the way that I best do that is not by finding a force, God, that is above and beyond all of everything, and then sort of relating to that force, praying to that force. It's more that I invest time and effort into sort of grafting myself onto things that transcend me. Even like prayer. The reason I pray in a room, I just said, like, I don't think I'm praying to anything. When I say Baruch Atah, forgetting the Adonai, like, I don't think there is a you separate from each person saying that is hearing it, that is called God. I don't think that. I'm comfortable saying those words because they might be wrong, but they don't like bother me in their wrongness. And I can be in a room of people saying them in unison. And I'm saying it like an asshole, not to be condescending, but like to emphasize the uni. Like, I am becoming part of something bigger than me. My voice is melting into everybody else's. That's why a lot of people like Joey Weisenberg, Shefa Gold, they often say, like, don't harmonize at first if you're singing together. Like, start by all singing the melody together, because it's not about just finding the harmonies. I love to harmonize, and I do a lot of it. But it's about melting together into something where we're actually not hearing the separate pitches, but we're becoming one, like capital O. I vibe with what you're saying, that we need to feel and be, not just feel. It's not an illusion. We need to be physically and metaphysically, not just an individual, but a node in a broader whole. For me, the way I achieve that, like, I find that notions of God that are separate from our material reality make it harder for me to do that. Like, it becomes a stumbling block.
Yes. I have to, admit that I am finding traditional liturgy that stumbling block. So, because I'm very attached to the words, I think you're giving me inspiration. Like, don't be so attached to the words. What's the intention? What's the kavanah? I'm great with the kavanah.
There are words I kick out, by the way. Just Baruch Atah is not one of those phrases.
What comes up to me is just how important it is for everybody to find their own path, to figure out what stream can you put your boat on that gives you the connection to that flowing river. It might look different from somebody else's, and it might be letting go of the words, and it might be having no words. It might be singing a song. It might be wearing a shirt in a sea of people that are caught up in experience of a team in Rhode Island. We have so many ways and opportunities that I just encourage people, including myself, to find what is yours, because we don't know how to describe and concretize all of our experiences. They're happening. And what is important to me is, what are you experiencing? Are you feeling connected? Are you feeling your heart expand? Are you feeling the oneness? Are you feeling a collection to the lineage and ancestors, your personal ancestors or our collective ancestors? Are you finding the stories in the Torah inspirational, and how to be a good human being and how to lead your how to decide how to live your life. To me, those are all divinely inspired ways, and that you can put the God word on them, you cannot put the God word on them, but what does it mean to even be exploring what God means to you? This meandering, this wondering and wandering. I love, what is it from The Hobbit? Not all who wander are lost. It's like we don't have to know what the end point is. Like we're not lost. We're wandering, we're wondering, we're discovering our unique, also from Torah, what is that still small voice inside of you? What is that God voice in you that wants to be expressed and give a unique color, a unique understanding to what we're all trying to figure out of what is God and how does it fit into my life?
There it is. What is God and how does it fit into my life? I think what's funny is the practice of asking and exploring that question, I think, is really common for Jews on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We talk a lot about things that people don't actually do in a deep way. I think we could talk about all the prayers in the prayer book for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I think the practice of sitting deeply with the words of Kianu Amecha, which is a prayer that happens to give a bunch of different God metaphors. I think it's a really interesting prayer. It gives a bunch of different ideas of what God would be and what humanity would be in response. I think it would be disingenuous to say like, wow, the millions of people in services are like really sitting deeply with the idea of God as the shepherd and us as the flock and all of these things that are in that prayer. What would be true is to say, while folks are in services, they're absolutely like, their minds are wandering, right? There's the word, and wandering. And that wandering and wondering includes like, okay, so what of this stuff do I actually co-sign and what don't I? Like, where do I dwell in this? And you might ask people at the end, like, okay, literally name for me a few of the prayers you just did. And I'm not saying this disrespectfully. I think a lot of people, like, they wouldn't be able to do that right afterwards unless they could go back and look at the sheet. If you ask them, like, where are you at right now in terms of your relationship to God? I think a lot of them would have spent 10 minutes during services having their mind wander and think about that question more than the rest of the year. So yes, the Hobbit idea is great, which, by the way, that book in the book is called There and Back Again. It's a leaving and a returning, which is totally what teshuvah, this idea of returning or turning or repentance, all these re-words, is about. It's about navigating cycles of time and change, progressing, but also returning as you do so. So that's going to be the note that we end this episode on. I mean, it feels hubristic and kind of funny to be like, hey, everyone, send us your thoughts on God now. But we love it. So we hope that you'll be in touch with us at Elul, ELUL, at JudaismUnbound.com with your God meanderings and wonderings and wanderings. And we also hope that you'll hang with us at our final couple Shabbat gatherings for Elul. There's one tonight as this is being released and one next week. So register at JudaismUnbound.com/ELUL. As a reminder, spiritual direction, super amazing context to consider God really deeply. You can have a free hour session that Wendie will set you up with if you head to JudaismUnbound.com/Elul and fill out a quick form. So we hope that you'll take us up on that. It's a really underutilized Jewish modality of experience, spiritual direction. So head there, and truly thank you so much for experiencing this Hallel month with us. And with that, this has been Judaism Unbound.